This morning, we're glad to be joined in studio by Dion Schaaf. Dion is the district manager for the Foster County Soil Conservation District.
Good
Dion,
morning.
how's it going?
Just fine, just fine.
How's your month been going?
Well, I got out in the field the other day, which was kind of nice after being stuck in the office for so long.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah.
You were before we went on air. You were saying the ground's still frozen, right?
We kind of got a shovel in for a couple of inches and turned something up, and there were ice crystals in there. So
Okay.
it's not thawed yet, but the way this weather's going, it's coming fast.
Right. That's for sure. All right.
Unless we get that two-day blizzard I've been worried about, yeah.
Yeah, you never know. We got spring right around the corner, but yeah, we always get seems like a late storm. I think last year we had one in May. It was a
Let's
little storm.
avoid that.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. So, all right. Well, thanks, Dion, for joining us here. And we got to talk some soil erosion this morning, right?
Yeah, we talked about this some last November, but last week I was looking around at all the black snow in the ditches along the paved roads, not the dirt roads, and, well, here we go again. We have more visible proof that there is a problem out there. We know it is just becoming more obvious. The estimate is that we're right now losing about 1% of our topsoil every year to erosion. The National Academy of Sciences has determined that cropland in the U.S. is being eroded at least 10 times faster than the time it takes for the lost soil to be replaced. Topsoil grows back at a rate of about an inch, maybe two, over the course of hundreds of years. So it's not like what we lose today is going to be back tomorrow. It's gone. It's in the ocean somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So again, the loss of topsoil, it has effects. It's going to reduce your cropland productivity, and it increases the sedimentation of your streams and wetlands. And that worsens flooding, and also because, the water erosion, because the topsoil is the part of the soil that's going to hold the most out of the water that's coming down. So with less of that, there's less infiltration, more water runoff. Now your tillage and cropping practices that reduce soil organic matter, they cause poor soil structure or result in soil compaction. These all contribute to increases in soil erodibility, and of course soil erosion also increases a lot if the soil doesn't have much in the way of vegetative cover or crop residue. Another thing for water infiltration, holding the water, is if you're leaving those residual roots from the last crop, because they provide a channel that allows that surface water to move down into the soil faster. So that also can prevent the runoff. Of course, now those black snowbanks out there, those are indicating wind erosion. A lack of wind protection is going to make it easier for the wind to pick up the soil particles and also to carry them farther. So in some places, what we call highly erodible land, the best way to prevent erosion is just going to be to have permanent cover on there to hold it in place. But for cropland, the biggest thing that we're doing when you're trying to prevent erosion is no-till, because it helps to prevent that soil loss. But there was an article in the No-Till Farmer last October that was titled, "No-Till Isn't Enough to Protect Against Soil Erosion." It was pointing out the need to keep more cover on the land, and it was recommending cover crops to do that job. Now, we've talked quite a bit before about the advantages of no-till and cover crops, right? So your no-till, it can also help build organic matter, soil structure, reduce compaction, and decrease the fuel and time you're using for trips into the field. Cover crops we use to help control moisture and salts, improve soil structure and water infiltration, and to build organic matter and nutrients. So these are the other advantages to these practices. And of course, the other important source of wind protection, especially if we're having dry weather or, heaven forbid, drought, that reduces the effectiveness of your crop residues and your cover crops, is what are called buffer strips, and the most common one around here is your field shelter belts. I'm sure you've noticed a lot of people are pulling out their field shelter belts. Either they're getting old and dying out anyway, or they're just trying to make room for their larger equipment. And we're going to ask people to please consider replanting those tree rows, if not in the original location, then along the edges of the fields. that permanent wind protection could make a really big difference. And in the meantime, the studies have shown that wind protection from shelter belts tends to result in higher average fields in the area downwind to that shelter belt for a distance of anywhere from 20 to 40 times the height of that shelter belt. So it's not only a just-in-case thing for the wind, it also has advantages for your crop every single year. So, again, the cover crops, the no-till, and your shelter belts are going to be the big things that keep that soil where you want it to be.
Right. Yeah. Good information there. It's and then of course you get those big or those strong summer winds, or even the wintertime here, no snow cover on the fields, and it just increases that erosion.
Yeah,
so.
there are some literally black snowbanks out there. You can't even see that there's snow under them, except that the ditches aren't normally that color.
Right. Yeah.
So.
All right. Sounds good. Let's see. We got to talk about the Watershed Project too, right? Tell us more about that.
Yes. I mentioned last month that this is the last year of the Kelly Creek Watershed Project, and this winter is pretty much the last chance to apply for cost share assistance through that project. And that covers most of northwestern Foster County and a couple townships in Wells County. But there's now a new project for the Bald Hill Creek watershed that's being administered over from Griggs County SCD. And that project is going to include several townships in Foster County. All of McHenry, Glenfield, Eastman, and McKinnon townships, pretty much all of Rolling Prairie, the larger part of Florence Township, the area east of Lake Juanita, and a few areas along the eastern edge of Bucephalia and Haven townships. So if anyone in those areas is interested in installing management practices through the Bald Hill Creek Watershed Project, they can contact the SCD office in Cooperstown. As with Kelly Creek, that watershed project is going to provide 60% cost share for installation of best management practices that are going to improve water quality as well within the watershed. And there's a large list of eligible practices, including some for both crop and livestock. If you go to our district webpage, which is fosterscd.org, there is a page for the Kelly Creek Watershed Project, and at the bottom of that page there's a link to a list of most of those practices. And the eligible practices for Bald Hill Creek should be the same as for Kelly Creek.
Okay, sounds good. We're talking with Dion Schaaf, Foster County Soil Conservation District Manager. And anything else this morning, Dion?
Like I said, that website is fosterscd.org, and if you need to contact our office, it's 652-2551, extension 3.
Okay, sounds good. And then we'll be joined again next month in April, right? First Wednesday in April, back on schedule next
Back
month.
on schedule.
All right, sounds good. All right, thanks, Dion. That's Dion Schaaf joining us this morning in studio here on Greg in the Morning. And Dion is the district manager for the Foster County Soil Conservation District, and we appreciate her taking time and chatting with us here on another edition of Here's What's Happening.